David, do you think he's going to get the outcome that he's looking for?
Well, the outcome he's looking for is really a long-term outcome, which is to have tariffs cause manufacturing to come back to the United States. And he might get that. But in the short term, what he's gotten is the stock market plunging. And what people are worried about is that in the midterm, what he may get is an increase in inflation. So he's taking a lot of pain in order to achieve his objective of bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And again, that's a long-term objective. So I worry about how this is going to impact him politically as a result of people being upset by the stock market and possibly in the near future being upset by prices going up, including for what he often talks about, groceries, which is a real indicator of how Americans feel about inflation.
Lance, on that point, I think the analogy that the president made yesterday was that this was some medicine, essentially, that economies had to take with the aim, hopefully in the long term, of course, of this being beneficial. But I just wonder, thinking of the ballot box, thinking of 2026, is it a political gamble for him?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that are a political gamble, but let's remember he campaigned on these tariffs, so this is not a complete shock for a lot of America. And I don't think you can underestimate, if you're a country out there thinking, whether you're going to continue to retaliate or not, I would not underestimate his resolve. And I don't think I would underestimate the resolve of the American people. He went into the weekend with a 50% approval rating. I even saw one poll over the weekend that had him at 53%. So I think he has the backing. That tells me there are a lot of folks in middle America, despite the hysteria from the American media, despite the hysteria from Wall Street, who are going to give him some leeway on this topic. Because let's remember, it's Wall Street that has been telling middle America for years that the status quo is okay when they've seen their towns and cities decimated as jobs have went overseas and incomes have plummeted. So I think there's a lot of resolve with the American people that are saying, okay, let's see what happens because the status quo hasn't been working here in America.
And we've certainly heard those comments, but David, I wonder what you think about that. We're coming off the back of a pretty tricky period, economically speaking, the pandemic, inflation. Do you think people have got it in them, that resolve, just to weather this storm and hope for better days?
I'm not sure. I think if inflation increases, they may not have it in them. I also think one of the other problems with the tariffs as they've been constructed is they've created a lot of uncertainty. Even now, we're talking about, is he going to keep the tariffs in place? Is he going to remove them? So for businesses and business owners, for them to make new investments to grow the economy, they have to have some certainty about what the tariffs are. Imagine if you were going to make some business decisions, perhaps invest in more manufacturing inside the United States based on the fact that there's a high tariff on countries where some products that are coming into the United States you compete with come from. But then you have to worry, well, what if he reduces the tariff through these negotiations he says are going to happen? Israel, the Netanyahu came here today. I hope we're going to talk about that. But he wanted to talk about tariffs as well. There's a 17% tariff on Israel. But Netanyahu is saying, I'm going to decrease the deficit we have with the United States, the trade deficit, and I'm hoping you'll change the tariff. So if you're doing business with Israeli companies, you don't really know what the tariff is going to be in the future, for instance.